Welcome back to the channel. So today I'm going to be talking about 5 reasons why your guitar tone sucks. Maybe it sucks, maybe it's great, who knows? But if it does suck, or maybe it doesn't suck that much, but you want to improve it just a little bit, this video is going to be for you, okay? So stay tuned. So number 1 may sound like a very obvious one, but you'd be surprised. Lifeless strings, old strings. This is something which can absolutely deaden your tone, make your guitar sound lifeless. It can make it horrible to play. Old rusty strings are just not enjoyable to play. Let's be honest. They don't have that kind of slick feel a new set of strings do. They lack brightness, they lack punch, they lack snap. And if they don't break by the time they get kind of, fairly old and overplayed, they will just become dull and lifeless. That's all I can really put it down to. So maybe you have your preference of strings. My preference on my acoustic guitars, if I'm in D standard, which most of the time I am, I use Diodario Phosphor Bronze gauge 12 to 53s. This gauge and this brand of strings I've just found to be perfect for me. I used to use Elixirs, the same gauge as well, but I just find the coating on them is a little bit too much for me. The Diodarios just feel a little bit more. You can feel you can just feel the texture of the string better. For me anyway, personally, maybe you love Elixirs. Still great strings, but for me, the Diodarios, 12 to 53s for D standard tuning are absolutely perfect. And for E standard, I would recommend the same string as Diodario Phosphor Bronze, but just 11 to 52s. So literally just the string gauge, one lighter, okay? But yeah, these strings, absolutely flawless. Been playing them for years. I did try and change strings to Maton strings a couple of months back, but I really just hated them. I didn't like how they felt or played or sounded. So I just switched back to the Diodarios, and I don't plan on changing anytime soon. So for my electric, this beauty, I use the Ernie Ball John Mayer custom gauge. So they got a 10.5 up here, so it's kind of like in between a 10 and 11, and it has a 47 on the bottom. So 10.5 to 47, and this is in standard tuning. It feels absolutely perfect. If I didn't have the option of the John Mayer gauge, I would go up. I would go up to an 11 to 48, which with Ernie Ball, I believe, are the power slinkies. The reason why is I always err on the side of slightly heavier strings. I just find that if they're too light, I have a tendency of like overbending. You can get used to a lighter string gauge, but for me, I'd rather have a slightly heavier string gauge, but it's just a personal preference. If you're new to playing guitar, you might want to go for a little bit of a lighter string. So personal taste. So depending on how often you are playing your guitar, will determine how often do you want to play your strings. So for me, if I have a couple of gigs a week, that's 4 hours worth of playing per week. And then I might practice for like 15 minutes to half an hour a day outside of that as well. So that would be another couple of hours in a week as well. So I play guitar for roughly, I'd say 5-6 hours a week. Over the course of a month, that would be 20 to 25 hours on that set of strings. So I like to change my strings every 4 to 6 weeks. So I would say every 20 to 25, 30 hours, you will get out of a set of strings. So if you're playing less than that, then obviously you don't need to change your strings as much, but they will oxidize naturally in the air. So even if you don't play them, but you just leave them, they will kind of oxidize over time. The coating on the Diodarios and the Elixirs does help with this and help make strings last longer and reduce corrosion and stuff. But if you're just playing for 15 minutes to half an hour per day, you might get a way of changing your strings every 2 to 3 months. But I wouldn't recommend any less than every 3 months. You will just enjoy playing your guitar more if you change them that often. So definitely your strings should be the foundation of your instrument. Like look after your strings, make sure you always have fresh strings, and your guitar will instantly sound better and be nicer to play. So the next thing that can really affect your tone in a negative way can be how your guitar is set up. So I did make a video on how to set up a Stratocaster, which can apply to, other electric guitars as well. Some of it will apply to acoustics, but not all of it when it comes to, adjusting the action and other things like that. But you definitely, if you don't want to do it yourself, you can go to your guitar shop and get them to set it up professionally. This will cost you, so I would recommend in time you learn how to set up your guitar yourself. It's actually not that hard. There's plenty of tutorials on YouTube which will teach you how to do it. Just takes a bit of time to learn how to do it, but once you can, it's really not that bad. You'll have to invest in a little toolkit, handful of tools, Allen keys, a couple of wrenches, some wire, string cutters, a Fritz ruler as well to adjust the action. You can pick one up from Amazon for £20, and then you'll have all you need to set up your guitar yourself. So action, let's talk about action. So what is action? Action is the height between the string and the fretboard. So if you have really high action, you're going to constantly be battling against it. It's going to be really, really hard to play, and you're going to have really sore fingers. Again, action is a personal preference thing. Some people like slightly higher action. Some people like really low action. I would say I like mine kind of in between, but slightly on the lower side. If your action is too low, you will get some string buzzing. So I'd recommend you get your action as low as you can, but not to the point where it's actually buzzing. And this will make it as easy to play as possible. And on electric guitars, your action is set up by adjusting these pins here on the saddle, okay? You adjust these pins, and the bridge, you can adjust this as well, and this will lift the string up, all right? And you can also file away some of the nut as well. Some nuts, when they're new, they come like really high, so you can't get that kind of, it affects how low the action can be on the first fret. I would take it to a professional if you're going to get that done, if you haven't done this before. You don't want to file away too much, and then you need a new nut, basically. So, yeah, definitely action is a big one. Make sure it's low enough, but not too low, and just so it's comfortable to play. All right. The next thing is intonation. So this is actually affects the length of the string, and this is also done by adjusting the bridge pins here. And what this does is it either makes the string longer or shorter, which will affect the intonation. So what is intonation? Well, when you play an open string, if it is properly intonated, it should be the exact, so if this is an E, it should be the exact same E on the 12th fret as well. So you want to make sure that your intonation is set up as well as your action. All right, so I have made a video explaining how to set up your electric guitar, specifically a Stratocaster. So if you do have an acoustic guitar, I will be making another one at some point in order to how to set up your acoustic guitar properly. But watch that video. I'm sure it will help in a lot of cases, even if you have an acoustic. And yeah, go check it out. Make sure your guitar is set up properly. By all means, if you don't want to do it yourself and you've never done it before and you're a bit nervous about messing it up, take it to an expert. Your local guitar shop will be able to help you out and get it set up properly, and they'll get it playing how it should be. All right, let's talk about EQ. All right, so everything's completely flat on this EQ at the moment, and this is really heavy, so I'm going to have to put this down. So on a scale of 1 to 10, the bass, I'd like to have it around about 4. Okay, so it's not quite half, it's just less than half. So in this instance, we're going to have the bass just rolled off slightly. Okay, luckily with this pedal, I actually have a low cut, so I kind of do that there. But if you didn't have the low cut, you would just roll it off there to about 4 o'clock, maybe even 3. But I wouldn't really recommend it. I like a little bit of punch. All right, so have it around 4 o'clock. All right, and then with the mids, guitar is a mid-range instrument. So the mids, if you cut out the mids, you're not going to have any punch. And in a band situation, this is really important that you have that kind of punch. This is a mistake I used to make years ago whenever I was playing in a metal band. I would have loads of distortion, loads of gain, and I would scoop the mids, which sounds cool. Like really, it sounds really kind of like filthy and distorted. But the problem here is you lose all clarity. Too much distortion and no mids, you just don't have, you lose all the separation in your riffs, you lose clarity completely. So I learned my mistake. I actually learned this from a mixing engineer who is very, very talented guy. He's called Dan Reed, and used to play in a band called No Consequence, and very talented mix engineer. And whenever he showed me his guitar tone, and he played in a heavy metal band, bear in mind, so you think it's going to be really like high gain. His gain would be rolled way off, and his mids would be really high, but live it would just sound ridiculous, and you'd hear every single note in their riffs. So you definitely want to have your mid-range boosted to about 6 or 7. All right, so about there, just to about 6. 7 might be a bit high for you, but try it out, see if you like it. Definitely around the 6 or 7 mark. And then for treble, I like to keep treble around about the middle, around about 5, maybe even like a little bit of a treble boost at the top. So like 5.5, 6 even. I think 5.5 is perfect for treble. So you can give it a little treble boost at the top, and that will do nicely. So, just to the left of 12 o'clock for the bass, roll off the bass a little bit, boost the mids, a fair bit, and then keep the treble kind of like in the middle, maybe with a little bit of a treble shelf at the top. Like, that's how I like to EQ my acoustic and my electric. And for me, it's a good foundation. It will sit nice in a band setting or even solo as well. Because when I play my solo gigs, for the bass, for the low end, when I'm looping, I use the octave pedal, and that gives it the low end anyway. All right. So that's what I'd recommend as kind of like a rule of thumb for setting your EQ, and this will really help clean things up nicely. All right, now let's talk pedal boards. Okay, let's talk pedals, because this is the part that guitar players just seem to absolutely love. Pedals are very fun, and they're very, very addictive. As you can see, I like my pedal board. I've got a massive pedal board, and I've actually tried to cut back on the amount of pedals I have. I've ended up selling a few, and these are the ones I really like and don't want to let go of. So really, I think you want to keep your pedal boards to the essentials, because if you add too many, it can really, again, help start muddying things up. If you dial in too many effects, you really lose that clarity as well. So this is how I like to set up a pedal board. All right, you have your time-based effects. So this includes delays and reverbs, basically. Anything which is like, so a delay is like, ding, ding, it's got an element of repeat. Reverb, it carries on that note. So it's kind of, I like to refer to it as like a time-based effect. So these are commonly used in clean and lead tone. Whenever I'm playing solo, I like to have a little bit of reverb on. Reverb is one that you really don't want to overdo, because again, just like too much distortion and not enough mids, it can really muddy your sound. So a little bit of reverb, just to give it a little bit of a feeling that you're in a room. You want a natural reverb sound, so just a little bit. All right. When it comes to delay, the only time I use delay, I don't use delay for any rhythm playing. That is just my personal taste. I think it sounds amazing on lead playing. And if you combine delay with a bit of overdrive, this gives you a really nice lead tone. So when it comes to delay as well, don't overdo it. And generally I find a delay with an overdrive works amazing for lead. If I just have my overdrive and I don't have a delay on, I just feel like it really, it kind of doesn't blend as well. It sounds a bit too clinical, a bit too clean. It can really give it that nice kind of like, what's the word? It just helps the lead sit in the music pretty much. All right. Now, if I was to only have 3 pedals, let's say I wasn't doing any looping or anything like this, I would have reverb, I would have delay, and I'd have overdrive. Those would be like my core 3. All right. With the overdrive, don't overdo it. Don't turn the gate distortion up too much. Again, you'll lose clarity. You just want it to give you sustain, and you want it to give you saturation. Okay. And the overdrive with a little bit of reverb and the delay just can give you an amazing lead sound. I think that's all you need for a great lead tone, to be honest. Little bit of overdrive, tiny bit of reverb and some nice delay in there, just kind of blended into the mix. And that gives you like a solid lead sound, all right? Now for me, if I'm playing acoustic, I like the sound of a chorus, but that's personal taste. If I was to remove any pedal from my board, I would remove the chorus because really it's a personal thing. It's not necessary. I wouldn't want to give up the delay or the overdrive at all. And my reverb comes from my mixer. I don't even use a reverb pedal anymore. The octave is really just for like a bass guitar sound. I don't use it for any normal regular guitar sound. So we're talking about guitar tone here. So I don't think talking about an octave pedal is really relevant. All right. But when you're talking about tone, if you want a great lead tone, reverb, overdrive, and delay is really all you need. When it comes to brands of pedals, I think Boss, anything by Boss is really, really solid. I use the Boss RC500, the Boss Super Chorus, the Boss OC5 octave pedal, and they are really solid. I've had the Super Chorus for a long time. I've also had loads of other pedals by Boss, but those are the current ones I'm actually running. All right, sweet. So that covers pedals and effects. Now, finally, and this should probably be the most important one, but I mentioned the other ones first because, you know, if your guitar doesn't sound good, you're not going to enjoy playing it. If it doesn't feel good as well, you're really not going to enjoy playing it. You're playing. You know, there's a saying which says, you know, tone is in your fingers. And it's cliche as that is, it's kind of true. A great guitar player can make a £100 guitar and a £50 amp sound great. You know, he's going to know how to dial it in, and his playing is going to be clean, his technique is going to be flawless, it's going to sound great. But if you have a bad player playing a £10,000 rig, it's going to sound horrible, right? So your playing, your technique, your timing, clean fretting, muting unwanted strings, and consistency in your rhythm, your attack, it is going to really, really impact how your tone sounds. Okay, so the emphasis here is to really practice. Make sure you rehearse your songs. Make sure your technique is as clean, very clean, and just make sure you're putting in. Make sure you have a strategic approach when it comes to learning guitar, when it comes to practicing guitar. Even now, myself, after over 18 years of playing, I still have a structured approach to how I practice guitar and my approach to learning. Okay. And what's more important is the consistency that comes to practicing. You don't have to practice for 2 hours a day, although that will help. Really, 10, 15 minutes a day is all you need. And that's going to give you, as long as it's intentional, that's going to be all you need in order to progress in your playing. And the more time you spend playing, the more you'll get to know your instrument, and also the more you'll get to know the gear you're working with as well. So you'll be able to really maximize and optimize the sound you can get from your gear. Because any bit of gear I found, it actually comes with a learning curve. When it's new, you're not familiar with the settings, but after a while, you know, you play around with it, and same as guitars. Guitars always feel weird when they're new, but your favorite guitar is going to be the one that you've played for 10 years because you're just so used to it. It feels like home. So familiarity is going to really help you get a really great sound out of your gear as well. Gear you don't have to spend thousands and thousands of pounds to get a great sound. This is a big misconception. There are some amazing guitars and amps and pedals out on the market now, which are actually very affordable. You know, a lot are made in Mexico, in China, and they make some really, really quality instruments for a really affordable price. So you don't need to spend thousands. Even whenever I was playing in a band like over 10 years ago now, I invested in a valve amp, right? Because back then, like, to get that really pro sound, a valve amp was really the only way to do it. But now you've got tools like the Quad Cortex by Neural. You've got the like Kemper. You've got Axe Effects. You've even got tools by Line 6 like the Helix pedal. There's some great amps out there on the market, like solid state amps, which are really affordable and they sound great as well. So you definitely don't need to invest thousands into like boutique valve amps anymore, because they're getting really close to with these like digital emulation, which can get you like basically just the same sound, especially if you're playing live and in the studio as well. Some of these plugins now are just amazing. Like, why would you mic up an amp whenever you've got all these plugins by Neural DSP? Like, they sound just as good. So yeah, getting great sound is as affordable as it ever has been. Really, it's getting familiar with your tools, learning how to set it up properly, learning how to set up your guitar, get that feeling right, and just practicing and getting comfortable with the tools you're using. So that's it for today. Those are my 5 recommendations in order to improve your guitar tone. Hopefully you found some of it helpful. If you did, hit subscribe, hit thumbs up. And also, if you are a beginner, if you're new to playing guitar, I've just released my 30-day guitar player, which is a beginner's course. It will teach you all the foundational chords, scales, theory, without all the boring stuff. You'll be learning songs in just 30 days. It will cover all your groundwork and actually get you playing real songs. So if you want to learn guitar, if you're a beginner, check that out in the link below in my school community, Soundcraft Academy. And thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.